Have you ever felt like your own homeowners association turned into a personal vendetta machine? What if one woman named Karen decided you were the enemy and used community rules to try and take your American dream away? And imagine the delicious moment when that same Karen watched her power crumble after you protected your property in the most electrifying way possible? In the deceptively peaceful suburb of Willow Creek Estates, California, the lawns were always emerald green, the flags waved just right, and the rules were God. At the center of it all was Karen Hargrove, president of the HOA board. With her pearl necklace and honey-dripping voice, she preached about preserving our beautiful community values while wielding fines like a medieval executioner. Mike Harlan was the perfect target. Recently divorced, keeping to himself after long work hours as an engineer, he thought buying his modest ranch-style home meant freedom. Boy, was he wrong. It started with the violations. Your grass is 0.5 inches too long, Mr. Harlan, the first letter said. Then the trash can left out too visibly. His mailbox shade wasn't on the approved list. Each fine $50, $75, $100. Mike paid at first, not wanting drama. But Karen wasn't satisfied. At the monthly meetings she'd smile sweetly. Neighbors, we must address Mr. Harlan's lack of commitment. Sociable. It affects our property values, you know. The whispers started. The problem resident, the one dragging the neighborhood down. Slandered and misunderstood. He stayed silent at first. But he was watching. Noting how Karen's own oversized rose bushes and unauthorized birdbath never got a fine. The hypocrisy was thick enough to choke on. The slander spread like cheap fertilizer. Mrs. across the street cornered him one morning at the mailboxes, clutching her reusable coffee cup like a shield. Mike, honey, Karen was just saying at book club how your yard might be lowering everyone's resale. Maybe if you came to the next potluck. Her voice trailed off with that pitying smile people give when they're already writing you off. Mike nodded politely the same way he always did, but inside he felt the burn. He wasn't antisocial. He was exhausted from rebuilding after the divorce. Yet here he was, painted as the neighborhood slob who refused to play nice. The fines kept rolling in, $200 for a hedge that grew a quarter-inch overnight, $150 for leaving the recycling bin visible past 8 a.m. On trash day, it was absurd, laughable even, until the total hit 4 figures and the letters turned nasty. Mike started keeping a binder. Photo of Karen's own violations, her holiday lights blazing into March while his single string got cited. He attended the meetings like a ghost, sitting in the back row while Karen stood at the podium in her pastel cardigan, voice all concern. We're not targeting anyone, dear neighbors. This is for the children, for the future of Willow Creek. The room would nod along, a sea of obedient smiles. Mike just sat there, jaw tight, noting how her children argument never applied to her sister's driveway, cluttered with garden gnomes that violated every aesthetic code. The dark comedy of it all hit him one night. These grown adults paying dues to be policed by a pearl-clutching dictator who treated grass length like a moral failing. Then the hammer dropped on a bright Tuesday morning. Mike pulled the thick envelope from his mailbox and felt his stomach twist. Notice of foreclosure proceedings glared in bold red. The HOA claimed $12,450 in unpaid fines and penalties. They were slapping a lien on his house, the one he'd poured every last savings into after his marriage fell apart. All because a hedge dared to grow and a trash can lingered too long. Mike stood in his driveway, envelope shaking in his hand, watching Karen across the street watering her perfect roses. She caught his eye and waved with that fake sweet smile, like she hadn't just declared war on his life. Most guys would have panicked, sold the place, or begged the board. Mike? Something snapped into cold focus. He wasn't rolling over. That night his living room became a war room. Stacks of bylaws, state statutes, coffee stains on every page. He read until dawn, cross-referencing every clause. And there it was. An obscure section in California property law about a homeowner's absolute right to install protective measures against harassment and trespass, as long as warnings were posted. The HOA's own bylaws admitted their power, stopped at the property line. A crazy, brilliant idea crystallized. Mike smiled for the first time in weeks. The weekend came and the neighbors got front row seats to the show. Mike was out at dawn with posts, thick wiring, and bright yellow danger signs. By Sunday dusk, a full high-voltage electric fence ringed his entire lot, humming softly, signs screaming danger, high voltage, authorized personnel only every 10 feet. It was theatrical, sure, but legal. He had drawn the line literally, and with thousands of volts, the cul-de-sac erupted. And gasped from her porch, hand over her mouth. Oh my word, is he insane? Kids on bikes slowed to stare. And Karen? She marched up the sidewalk by Monday morning, pastel suit crisp, pearls gleaming, clutching a fresh stack of citations like they were holy writ. Michael Harlan, she called in that syrupy tone that hid the venom. This monstrosity is a safety hazard and a blatant violation of community aesthetics. You're endangering the children. Mike stepped onto his porch, coffee mug in hand, calm as ever. Morning, Karen. 2 of your own bylaws. Your authority ends right here at my line. The fence is on my property, fully compliant with state law for protection against harassment. He gestured at the signs with a subtle smirk. Want to test it? Karen's face flushed crimson under her perfect makeup. This isn't over. Immediately. You think this little stunt saves you from foreclosure? Think again. She spun on her heel, phone already to her ear, rallying the board, her voice carrying back. He's gone rogue, people. We have to protect the neighborhood. But Mike knew the game had changed. And being their doormat. The real battle was just heating up. The HOA board didn't waste time. Within days, fresh fines rained down. Eyesore violation, safety threat, disruption of harmony. Karen called an emergency meeting where she stood at the podium, voice trembling with faux outrage. Neighbors, we cannot allow this kind of rebellion. Mr. Scaring the children and lowering our collective values. We must act. The crowd murmured agreement, a few even shooting dirty looks toward Mike's house. One guy in the back muttered loud enough for everyone. Who does he think he is, turning his yard into a prison? Karen nodded solemnly, pearls bobbing. Exactly. All of you. Mike sat silent in the back row again, binder thicker now. He had photos. Karen's own yard with its unapproved fountain, her sister's gnomes, the board member's RV parked illegally for months. The selective enforcement was blatant, the hypocrisy deliciously obvious if you bothered to look. He didn't argue that night, letting Karen dig her hole deeper with every for the children line while her own rules bent for friends. The lawsuit came fast. Claims court, confident their high-priced attorney would crush this rogue element. Karen took the stand first, all polished poise. Your Honor, Mr. Dangerous, unsightly, and directly challenges our authority to maintain standards. We've tried reasoning with him. Unity from his blatant disregard. She dabbed at her eyes dramatically. Think of the families. The judge nodded, but Mike, representing himself, no fancy lawyer needed, was ready. He stood calm, laid out the foreclosure notice first. These fines started over a hedge that grew overnight and a trash can that lingered 10 minutes. Here's photo evidence of identical violations on board members' properties that went unpunished. He passed prints around. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as neighbors in the gallery recognized their own ignored messes. Karen's face tightened. Snapped. We exercise discretion for the greater good. Mike smiled thinly. Favors you and your circle, apparently. Section 4.2 of your bylaws requires uniform enforcement. You violated your own rules on notice periods too. 3 letters were mailed late. He flipped pages. And here's the state statute I found. Homeowners may install defensive measures, including electrified fencing with proper warnings, to protect against ongoing harassment and trespass threats. My fence complies perfectly. Your campaign against me? That's the real hazard. The courtroom went dead quiet. You might save her. This is ridiculous. He's twisting everything. But the judge leaned forward, eyes sharp. Mike kept going, voice steady but laced with that quiet satisfaction. I didn't start this war. It's a neighborhood gossip that turned me into the villain. I just protected what's mine. Cross-examination was brutal in its politeness. Mike asked Karen point-blank about her own violations. She stammered, face reddening under the lights. Well, circumstances. The gallery shifted uncomfortably. Neighbors who'd nodded along at meetings now saw the strings. One woman whispered loud enough. She fined me for my garden gnome last year, but hers are fine? The judge didn't need long. Engaged in selective harassment, failed their own procedures, and overstepped authority. Mike's fence was legal self-protection. Not only did the foreclosure get tossed, the court ordered the HOA to pay Mike's costs, emotional distress, and punitive damages. The check? A staggering $185,000. Karen sat frozen in her chair as the gavel fell, jaw slack, pearls suddenly looking cheap. The hunter had become the hunted. Mike walked out of that courtroom with the biggest smile the quiet engineer had worn in years. He took the fence down 2 weeks later, its job done. Neighbors who once whispered now waved awkwardly, some even apologizing over coffee. We didn't know she was targeting you like that, one said. Mike just shrugged. Word spread through Willow Creek and beyond. Homeowners started reading their bylaws with fresh eyes. Karen resigned quietly after the board meeting where her for the children speech fell flat, the room suddenly full of people asking why her own yard got special treatment. The power flip was complete, sweet as that first check hitting his bank account. Here's the thing, folks. You don't have to go full electric fence to win. But Mike's story screams one truth. HOA Karens only thrive when homeowners stay ignorant and scared. Read every bylaw, document the hypocrisy, and know the actual law. Sometimes the sweetest justice is making the bully write you a big fat check. Stay smart out there.